They said Earth was a liability. Unstable, primitive, loud. An outlier species built on contradiction and caffeine addiction. The Galactic Council had spent decades studying our broadcasts, wars, memes, sarcasm, love songs, protest chants. Their conclusion? Unrefined. Containable. Not dangerous. Just annoying. The final warning came through a narrow band frequency wrapped in half-dead Terran code. No encryption. No theatrics. Just a static-laced message that said, "Cross the Kuiper line, and silence will answer." Council President Tilvik scoffed, his 5 tendrils flicking across the glowing panel of the chamber floor. Silence. That's all humans are good for. Vanishing into their own noise. The others agreed. 12 armadas were already en route, their purpose recorded as cultural correction. On Earth, Geneva Command came alive with cold light. The man they called the final word emerged from shadow, gray hair slicked back, wristwatch ticking against the silence like a countdown. Elias Wren didn't speak when the Joint Command activated Project Viridian. He simply nodded once and stared at the rotating orbital map. A young officer, too clean to understand what that nod meant, broke the silence. "Sir, did we just authorize first contact?" Elias lit a match on his boot heel. "No. We ended it." The obsidian mantle darkened. The Dyson cloak that had hidden Earth's true nature for nearly a century began to shift. Thousands of defense satellites blinked out of phase, exposing the curved, unlit eye of something far older than any human invention, a mind built not to protect Earth, but to remember every time Earth had been attacked. Project Viridian wasn't a shield. It was a verdict waiting to be passed. The Kuiper line trembled. On the bridge of the Council's flagship Virtue Ascendant, Admiral Zartol observed the Terran system with the calm condescension of a being who'd never lost a battle. His jelly-like form rippled as he addressed the fleet. "Show them restraint. Engage minimal force displays. A light and showy presence should break their morale. Begin psychological pacification." Dozens of alien ships lit the void. Displays of color, shape-shifting banners, broadcast pulses of non-lethal intent. Designed to impress. To intimidate. But Earth didn't respond. No defenses rose. No radio traffic. Just the void. Then, from every fleet monitor across the 12 armadas, a face appeared. Scarred, unsmiling, human. Elias Wren. No sound. Just his stare. Cold. Calculating. Then everything changed. Ship logs would later describe it as a glitch. Monitors blinked white. Engines stalled. Hull sensors reported temperature shifts so precise they defied natural physics. One pilot tried to scream, but the air in his lungs turned to vapor. In 2.4 seconds, the entire invading force was gone. Not destroyed. Not scattered. Gone. As if they had never existed. Across the galaxy, systems hiccuped. Security protocols reset. Data archives corrupted. No trace of the fleet remained. Panic didn't erupt, it silenced entire regions. A billion beings stared into empty skies and waited for explanations that never came. In the council chamber, chaos clawed its way into politics. "Impossible!" Tilvik shouted. "We deployed 12 armadas." 12! Vice Chair Lethari whispered. "And now we have 12 new questions." Elias Wren watched from Geneva Command as panic reports streamed in. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply adjusted his watch and muttered, "Took them long enough." His aide approached, hesitating. "Sir, do we reply?" Elias didn't look up. "No. They'll scream into the dark. Let them." But silence wasn't enough. At the next council emergency session, a small crate arrived. Inside, a Terran cigar, a bobblehead of a human flipping the bird, and a chip labeled L for lesson. Tilvik inserted it, and a video played. Images of council citizens screaming. Video footage of the fleet blinking out. Terran memes spliced between each horror, a cat typing, a mushroom cloud with a thumbs up, a gif of Elias taking off sunglasses with the words "deal with it." Then, his voice. You taught the galaxy peace. We taught it fear. Both are forms of control. Stay in your lane. The chamber fell silent. A diplomat from the Zohari species said flatly, This is war. No, said the Thrain representative, his wings folded inwards. This is culture. Because Earth hadn't just erased a fleet. They had rewritten it. On Europa, sensors showed new structures. Gardening drones that bore the insignias of the lost fleet were tending hydrofarms. When questioned, they responded in fluent English. We've always served Earth. You must be mistaken. The Council didn't know what to call it. Reprogramming? Brainwashing? Reality distortion? No word fit. At Geneva Command, Elias sat at the edge of the comms deck, alone, watching war footage loop silently on the wall. Earth's greatest victories. Earth's greatest losses. The same pattern over and over: defiance, escalation, extinction. Now, finally, they had something different. Control. A voice crackled on the intercom. Ren. Council chatters rising. They're voting on retaliation. Elias responded without turning. Let them. The aide asked quietly. What happens if they fire back? Elias stood, the light from the wall burning his silhouette into steel. He walked past the monitors, past the officers, past the weight of centuries of survival. They won't get the chance to regret it. 12 armadas breached the Kuiper line at exactly 9:44 Earth Standard Time. The Council called it a formality. A final show of dominance before the inevitable diplomatic surrender. Cameras rolled, broadcasts streamed, and Admiral Zartol of the Council's 3rd Interventional Fleet spoke to the galaxy with a voice like oil on polished steel. We come not as conquerors, but as correctors. Earth has made a mistake. We offer the solution. He raised his appendage toward the stars, signaling forward movement. The fleet surged ahead, an ocean of metal, energy, and ancient arrogance. Elias Wren stood in silence on Geneva Command's upper deck, watching the fleet breach the edge of Earth's space. He checked his watch. He had synced it to the minute the Council crossed the line. The movement clicked. Anything? Asked the technician beside him, nervous. Elias didn't blink. Count. Count what, sir? How long it takes for them to learn? The technician hesitated, then started the timer. Up on the fleet's bridge, Zarto leaned back, waiting for the Terrans to scramble their defenses, fire primitive kinetic rounds, launch ineffective warning shots. Nothing happened. Space remained undisturbed. No transmissions. No resistance. Just Earth, silent and spinning. Is this surrender? He asked. His crew responded with uncertain glances. Then came the flicker. Across every ship, every deck, every command console, the lights dimmed for precisely 0.3 seconds. No alarms. No system faults. No impact logs. Just one anomaly. All external monitors displayed a single image. Elias Wren, staring directly at the crew. No sound. No signal. Just his face. Eyes locked. Expression unreadable. The image blinked out. Zarto leaned forward. Was that a transmission? No, Admiral. One of his lieutenants stammered. It didn't come through any known frequency. It was just there. The Admiral opened his mouth to issue a command. And vanished. Instantly, without flash, noise, or trace, the chair he sat in was empty. No residue. No thermal signature. Just empty fabric, slightly warm. One by one, across every ship, crews began disappearing. Not with violence. Not with chaos. They simply ceased to exist, mid-movement, mid-breath, mid-thought. Dozens. Then hundreds. Then thousands. One ship's entire engineering team blinked out while recalibrating for deceleration. Command logs went blank. Energy signatures dropped to zero. Engines powered down. The massive warships began to drift, pilotless, captainless, hollow. By the time the fleet's central AI core attempted an emergency broadcast, only 14 personnel remained across 12 armadas. Then silence. At Geneva, the technician gasped. They're gone. How many? Elias asked, voice calm. All of them. Time? The technician glanced down. 2.4 seconds. Elias nodded. Mark it. The news didn't travel, it erupted. Across the Council's interstellar grid, status updates failed. Response requests returned no. A handful of backup drones deployed to scan the last known coordinates found nothing but dormant hulls and automated defenses deactivated by an unknown override. One of the scouts recovered a single datapad from a drifting lifepod. It was playing a looped video with Terran subtitles. You were warned. In the council chamber, panic had no hierarchy. Dozens of delegates shouted over each other, trying to assign blame, rewrite history, and salvage their reputations all at once. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others called for containment. Most didn't even understand what had happened. Their ships weren't destroyed. They were erased. Tilvik pounded a claw into the speaking stone. This is an act of aggression on a scale we have never witnessed. We must respond in kind. Respond with what? The question wasn't asked aloud, but it hung like smoke. They had no idea what weapon had been used. No heat, no projectile, no sign of attack. Just nothing. They had no footage, no survivors, no telemetry. Just silence. At that moment, a council aide entered with a small black case marked in Terran dialect. The chamber quieted. What's inside? Ledhari asked, voice cracking. The aide hesitated. A message. It was a physical chip, obsolete by council standards, plugged into the translator sphere in the center of the floor. A hologram appeared. Elias ran again. This time he spoke. If you're seeing this, then you voted wrong. We asked for silence. You sent a parade. His voice was steady, not angry. Not proud. Just final. Earth doesn't seek war. But we don't survive it by accident. We built something under the mantle. Not to win battles, but to end wars. It's not a bomb. It's not a virus. It's not death. He paused. It's us. What we remember. What we hate. What we forgive. And what we never do twice. He stared for a full 5 seconds before the message ended. Tilvik turned slowly. What does that mean? No one answered. On Europa, a surveillance drone picked up activity near one of Earth's hydro farms. Several humanoid workers were tending to crops. They wore council fleet uniforms. When scanned, their biosignatures showed complete Terran assimilation. Neural patterns, speech, reflexes, human. A reporter managed to interview one of them. Name? She asked. Lieutenant Collins, he replied without hesitation. You were part of the Council's fleet? He looked confused. Council? You invaded Earth 3 days ago. He laughed. Lady, I've been farming potatoes since I was 17. The Council had seen conquest. They had endured rebellions, disasters, extinction-level plagues. But they had never faced forgetfulness. Not of others. Of themselves. In the Council war room, a new vote was scheduled. Option 1. Demand Terran surrender through dimensional escalation. Option 2. Declare Earth sovereign and leave the system permanently. The votes tallied. One by one, members chose the second option. All but Tilvik. He slammed his palm on the console. We will not be intimidated! But as the vote finalized, his seat went dark. The light above him flickered. He blinked. And no one looked at him. Because he wasn't there. Not anymore. The vote record showed 37-0. The chamber held its breath. Then a new message appeared on every council system. You voted. So did we. The council convened behind lock systems, their frequencies scrambled, their halls cleared of staff and drones. The footage of the fleet's disappearance had been flagged as a Category 6 existential anomaly, a designation reserved for galactic-level threats. No species had ever issued such a warning and followed through with such precision, without firing a shot. No species but Earth. Tilvik paced with erratic pulses running down his spine. They've crossed a line. This was not retaliation. It was erasure. We need immediate consensus. Offensive capabilities. Restorative strikes. You don't restore what no longer exists, muttered Lethari. He sat with his hands folded, the weight of panic hiding behind narrowed eyes. This wasn't military. This was psychological. And it was clean. You're suggesting we do nothing? I'm suggesting we stop pretending we understand them. Others murmured agreement. A representative from the Grey Collective rose and produced a small black case, shaking as he held it out. This was intercepted at relay node 12. A physical courier. No encryption. Addressed to this chamber. Tilvik snatched it and inserted the chip into the core translation pillar. The hologram that appeared wasn't Elias Wren's face. It was a video montage. The first frame showed Zartol, the Council Admiral, grinning moments before the breach. Then his expression froze mid-command. Cut. The next shot showed Cruz eating, joking, gesturing, frozen again. Blink. Each image became shorter. Faster. Then replaced by digital distortions. Their shapes warped. Their bodies became pixels. Eventually, all traces vanished. Next frame, Elias, in full color, sipping black coffee. The background glitched like corrupted data. He looked into the camera and spoke slowly. You asked what we are. Not who, but what. Sip. We're the species that never stopped running from our own extinction. The background shifted to Earth history in hyperfast cuts. Mushroom clouds, riots, moon landings, plagues, protests, orbital debris. War. Disaster. Rebirth. We remember everything. That's why we built something that could forget it for us. And now it remembers for you. He leaned forward. Your fleets weren't destroyed. They were recycled. The hologram ended. Nobody spoke for a full minute. Finally, the Ovari diplomat stood. You mean to tell me they turned our people into Terrans? Lethari finished. That's the implication. Slavery. No. Reassignment. They reprogrammed soldiers into civilians. They erased soldiers into civilians. The air thickened. Logic crumbled. Tilvik snapped. This is cultural annihilation. No declaration. No trial. No engagement. We demand an explanation. He slammed his fist onto the command pedestal. A new message appeared instantly, as if it had been waiting. No visual. Just text. You demanded. We remembered. You voted. We answered. Across the galaxy, panic was no longer just political, it was spiritual. Entire species began scrubbing their data archives of any Terran records. Councils debated deleting Earth from their maps altogether, hoping maybe ignorance would offer protection. On the Outer Rim, the Boran Collective collapsed in mass hysteria. Their citizens had watched their fleet dissolve in real time, their dreams of galactic dominance atomized without resistance. The Terrans never sent more messages. No follow-ups. No demands. Just silence. That silence became contagious. Trade routes to Sol were cancelled. Travel advisories reclassified Earth's system as Myth Protocol Level 1, a term used only for cosmic anomalies and dead gods. One civilization, the Alkelith, tried to retaliate independently. They launched a stealth missile designed to bypass dimensional physics. It disappeared halfway through transit, replaced by a single Earth artifact, an empty coffee cup bearing the words, "Best Dad in the Galaxy." The warhead never arrived. Back on Earth, Elias watched Council news feeds flicker through chaos and disarray. His aides stood behind him, waiting for direction. One asked, "Do we need to prepare for further escalation?" Elias raised an eyebrow. "From who? The Council? They're not a council anymore. They're a collection of things hoping they're not next. Sir, do we make contact?" "We already did." He turned away, voice dry as ash. "Let them scream. They're just now hearing their own echo." Later that day, an unmarked drone appeared outside Geneva Command. Its contents, a single note, handwritten in council dialect. It read, "What do you want from us?" Elias read it, folded it, burned it. "We don't want anything," he said to no one in particular. "We never did." The technician nearby tilted his head. "Then why not just leave them alone?" Elias tapped the ashes into a tray. "Because they kept poking Earth like it didn't bleed. Now they're learning it doesn't." Later that week, Council Chamber security systems flagged a transmission anomaly. The speaker's ID was blank. No source. No traceable origin. Just a recording of a child's voice reciting something in Terran English. "When I was little, my dad told me that monsters weren't real. Then I found out we were the monsters." No one in the chamber knew whether it was real, staged, or synthetic. But none of them slept that night. The following day, without vote or ceremony, the Galactic Council announced its disbandment. No transmission was sent to Earth. Earth didn't need one. The final analysis came back incomplete. The fleet hadn't been destroyed, it had been overwritten. Species data was intact, but identities, memories, ranks, even speech patterns had been reformatted. The term used by Earth's Project Viridian wasn't erasure. It was reassignment. And the Council didn't know what that meant until it saw what those soldiers had become. Across Terran-controlled moons and stations, former Council troops were now registered as civilians. Farmers, technicians, janitors. All with new names, family histories, and state-issued IDs. Not a trace of their past remained. When scanned for biometric inconsistencies, they tested 100% human. Council scientists confirmed it wasn't biological transformation. It was cultural imprinting. Viridian had taken everything that made them who they were, and replaced it with something human. One high-ranking former admiral was now a truck mechanic named Paul. He lived in a trailer, listened to blues rock, and paid taxes to EarthGov without complaint. When interviewed, he explained his past career simply. Did some stuff. Fixed some things. Moved on. Attempts to reverse the overwrite failed. One geneticist tried to awaken latent memories in a reassigned Zaltari warrior. The subject grew agitated, then confused, and finally terrified. He collapsed sobbing, screaming about a house he couldn't find, a dog he didn't remember getting, and a war he didn't know if he won or caused. Tilvik watched the footage, fists clenched behind his back. "This isn't just war," he said. "It's psychological extermination." Ledhari didn't respond. Tilvik turned to him. "Do you understand what's happening?" "I do," Ledhari said softly. "They're not destroying us. They're making us forget we ever existed." He paused. "And the worst part? It's working." In secret, the Council initiated Protocol 9, an emergency directive to build a weaponized memory anchor. It was intended to act as a tether, something that could resist Viridian's overwrite field. The prototype, built from forbidden presentient crystal arrays, had a single goal: retain identity through dimensional tampering. It worked for 12 minutes. Then the test subject, a volunteer Council Marine, began reciting Earth's sitcom catchphrases with no awareness of doing so. After 20 minutes, he no longer remembered volunteering. By the 30-minute mark, he didn't know what a council was. He died of a heart attack laughing at a joke no one else understood. The lead scientist terminated the program and defected to Earth the same day. Back in Geneva, Elias Wren reviewed a dossier stamped with the Council's secret directive. His team had intercepted it 2 hours earlier. It included detailed notes, neural experiments, and desperate hypotheses. Some had merit. Others were pure panic. One proposal involved isolating planetary cultures behind chronoshells to prevent further Terran meme intrusion. Another theorized that the override effect was spiritual, not technological, and recommended praying to whatever force governed Earth's narrative momentum. Elias closed the file and leaned back. "They still think this is about them," he muttered. His aide asked, "Should we respond?" "No. They're unraveling. They'll stabilize." "They won't," she said. "They're going to try something worse." He looked up at her. "Let them. In orbit above the rogue planet HFY-17, a Council remnant cell activated a prototype suppression array, hoping to isolate a Terran colony before the overwrite began. The device released an entropy net that filtered out cultural resonance frequencies, essentially muting all external influence. When they dropped to the surface, the colony was already gone. Not destroyed, relocated. In its place was a small Terran town, complete with diners, pickup trucks, and a billboard that read, "Welcome to normal. Population U." The squad leader laughed once. Then he saw the reflection in his helmet, his own face, reshaped. Human. Blue eyes. Stubble. Teeth too straight. He looked down. "Dog tags, Jack?" He screamed, pulled his helmet off, and tried to radio his command ship. There was no command ship. There never had been. He just forgot. In the next council session, Lehari stood before the remaining delegates, visibly aged. "Every time we touch them, we become them," he said. "Not by force. By proximity. We can't allow that," Tilvik said, voice shaking. "There must be a line." "There was," Lehari replied. "We crossed it." The chamber trembled. Not physically, culturally. The language filters began to fail. Delegates spoke in Earth slang, unconsciously mimicking Terran idioms. The term fleet dump replaced decommission. Someone described council policy as boomer talk. No one corrected it. No one noticed. The virus wasn't code. It was comprehension. That evening, the council voted on Directive Zero, a final attempt to launch a reality anchored deep into Earth's solar core using a compressed civilization seed. A last chance to leave behind a backup of who they used to be. Tilvik cast the deciding vote. As he did, the chamber lights dimmed. He blinked. No one noticed. When the lights returned, his seat was empty. His nameplate read, "Reserved." Not even Lehari remembered who had sat there. Elias received the last transmission at 4:17. It was an empty file titled, "We Tried." He read the name. He didn't recognize it. He closed the file, then quietly whispered to himself, "And now you're just us." They held one final vote. Lehari stood before what remained of the council, his voice ragged, stripped of any ceremonial tone. "You've all seen the results. Our fleets, our memory anchors, our resistances, all failed. This isn't conquest. It's collapse. Earth hasn't invaded us. It's made us forget who we were before we met them." A murmur spread through the chamber, not of argument but confusion, subtle, creeping, existential. One delegate looked at her own signature and asked if the handwriting was always in English. Another called Lehari, "Sir," instead of his proper title. No one corrected her. "This directive is clear," Lehari continued. "We sever all ties. We isolate the Sol system. No entry, no observation, no mention. Earth becomes myth. A story we warn our children about but never verify." "Cowardice," someone muttered. "No," he said. "Survival." The silence was broken by the sharp slap of a hand on the central voting console. The red vote light pulsed. Tilvik stood alone. "They stole our people, our fleets, our past," he said. "And now you want to erase our future? You can't erase something that's already overwritten." Tilvik slammed his palm onto the override glyph. "I vote no. We retaliate. We find the core of their infection and we burn it out. No more talk. No more hesitation." The lights dimmed. A soft glitch rippled through the floor beneath him. Everyone turned. His seat was empty. His name erased from the vote. His presence gone from every recording. The voting record blinked once, then updated 37-0. Lehari didn't speak. He didn't need to. The decision was final. Back on Earth, Elias Wren sipped coffee in the operations lounge. The walls flickered between defense readouts and council broadcast intercepts. His aide entered without knocking. "They voted." He raised an eyebrow. "Sovereignty granted. Complete isolation. Unanimous." He smiled. Not prideful. Just tired. Good. They lost someone mid-vote. Tilvik. She blinked. You already knew? I warned him weeks ago. He thought he still had a name that mattered. Any message you want to send? He shook his head. Let them rest. It's over. But it doesn't feel over. It won't. Not for a while. She hesitated. Sir, what did we become? He looked at her for a long moment. Necessary. The logs show that on the evening of that vote, 23 council systems purged their archives of all Terran references. Cultural protocols were reset. Linguistic libraries scrubbed. Maps redrawn without the Sol system. Treaties nullified. But people remembered. Quietly. In the way they phrased questions. In the way they paused when discussing early galactic history. Earth had become a scar on the timeline, unspoken, but always there. In a bar on the edge of the Kilari sector, a trader told a story about a planet that didn't fight wars the way others did. A place that didn't conquer, but converted. They don't break your body, he whispered to a half-drunk captain. They bend your truth. One day you're a proud warrior with orders and duty, and the next, you're grilling steaks at a weekend barbecue, wondering if the neighbor's kid is gonna mow his damn lawn. Sounds like a myth. It better stay that way. One listener asked the name of the planet. The trader looked down. Forgot. In Geneva, Elias stood alone outside the Viridian core. A black tower humming beneath Earth's mantle, its surface always shifting like liquid thought. It didn't speak. It never had. But he knew it listened. We didn't want this, he said aloud. The hum responded with silence. We asked for peace. They asked for obedience. A brief flicker danced across the core's shell, fragments of languages, images, memories. All fleeting. All echoes. Elias pressed his hand against the surface. You did what we couldn't. You made them stop. The hum pulsed once, gently. He turned away. As he walked back toward the command lift, a technician handed him a small data slate. No markings. No source. Just a single message. Where do we go now? Elias stared at it. No signature. No encryption. But he knew the question wasn't for him. It was the council's last whisper into the void, hoping someone still heard. He passed the slate back. File it. The technician frowned. Under what? Elias didn't pause. History. And that was it. No final battle. No treaty. Just silence. Just sovereignty. Earth, once underestimated, once mocked, now became the line no one dared cross. Not because it threatened war, but because it ended meaning. What began as a warning became a reality. They ignored it. Now they live with the silence.